Similar to my fellow nominees, I'm here also to speak about the law. And as a matter of law, Joe Biden won the 2020 election.
As a matter of law?
Yes, Senator.
Who won more votes?
Well, Joe Biden received more electoral votes.
Who won more votes in the election among the American people?
As a matter of law, Joe Biden won the 2020 election.
Was the Capitol attacked on January 6th?
Senator, like my other nominees, I have seen videos.
Like your other nominees, you're going to adopt the script, the new script, the new hedge, the new White House pre-negotiated script. Mr.
More intense cross-examination, this time by former federal prosecutor and California Senator Adam Schiff. Let's play it.
Perfectly free to immerse yourself in that, exercise your First Amendment rights there. When it comes to asking basic questions about January 6th, you won't answer those questions.
The difference, Senator, is that there are cases or controversies that I have before me as a district judge relating to individuals that have been charged for conduct that occurred on that date in this Capitol.
So does that mean that any litigation involving Columbia you're prepared to recuse yourself from?
Senator, the limitation on Columbia was in regard to hiring law clerks. I hold no bias against the institution itself.
Well, whether you hold a bias towards it or not, you're saying today that you can't discuss any of the January 6th stuff because there are pending cases or controversies, even though they've all been pardoned by the president. I'm not sure what case or controversy you're referring to, but nevertheless, you're unwilling to say you recuse yourself from a case or controversy involving Columbia when you specifically weighed in there. How do we reconcile that?
Senator, as I stated in the recusal order that Ranking Member Durbin raised, I indicated that I held no particular bias.
Well, that's fine. You can say you hold no particular bias about January 6th, too. I mean, it's easy to say. Your letter demonstrates a very clear bias. I'm not saying that it's an unreasonable bias, but it is a bias. It is a prejudice in favor of one view that would cause people to question your impartiality if that case came before you. That seems to me a stronger, much stronger case for recusal than the one you're making to refuse to answer questions about January 6th. So let me just ask to make sure that I understand the limits of what you're prepared to say. Who won the 2020 election?
Senator, as I indicated in response to questions from Senator Blumenthal, Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, as a sitting circuit court judge at the time of her nomination, was asked this question in questions to the record.
I'm asking you the question.
Yes, and as a sitting judge, I will tell you that it is not appropriate for a judicial nominee to engage in discussion regarding a matter of political controversy with that.
See, this is completely inconsistent with your involvement in the whole Columbia controversy. Completely inconsistent. Because you involved yourself in that controversy. You went out of your way. Nobody asked you to write that letter. You took this upon yourself to do, to insert yourself into that. But you're saying here, you can't answer a simple question about who won the 2020 election because it would somehow implicate you in controversy. I'm sorry, there's no way to square those two things. Mr. Chair.
As I mentioned, even some Republican senators were doing some pretty good cross-examination. Now, I'm no fan of Senator Kennedy from Louisiana, MAGA Republican there. He's got a background in being a prosecutor, and his questions at these judiciary hearings tend to be pretty decent to good. He asked one of the Trump picks to be a federal judge about the doctrine of qualified immunity, whereby police officers are not held civilly liable for engaging in excessive force if this doctrine of qualified immunity applies. And essentially, to simplify it, would a reasonable police officer make the same mistake? If a reasonable officer engages in a reasonable mistake, then the officer would be not liable regardless of the circumstances, even if the officer shoots and kills someone that's determined to be negligent. If you were reasonably negligent, then you get off. Now, that's why I don't like the qualified immunity doctrine. That was my background practicing as a civil rights litigator before starting Midas Touch. And here Senator Kennedy asks these judges a very basic question. which is, okay, let's just say the police can catch up with a suspect who actually turns out to be innocent, and because the police officer gets tired, the officer just decides to shoot the suspect in the back without even knowing the circumstances. Would there be a problem with that? These judges can't even answer that question. And so even Senator Kennedy, a MAGA Republican's like, you can't answer the question if a police officer is allowed to just shoot somebody in the back who's innocent while they're running away. Like, if you struggle to answer that question, watch this. Let's play it.
Ms. Mitchell, tell me about the qualified immunity doctrine.
The qualified immunity doctrine is one that protects officers who are in executing their duties are reasonable or have a reasonable basis for the actions that they're taken, and it typically is something that courts decide at the outset to protect those officers from liability.
I love G-Fiber.
I love my G-Fiber, dude. Google Fiber is the best. Fast and reliable.
Quality's great, speed's great, affordable, $70 a month. You can't really beat that.
I love it. I absolutely love it.
Points where literally anybody can build a fully working app without knowing how to code. This is Base 44. This is a first look at the current industry-leading AI app builder, and you wouldn't believe the kind of apps that people are creating. Smart nutrition apps, inventory trackers, onboarding tools.
Something that courts decide at the outset to protect those officers from liability.
Okay. So if somebody runs from a cop, the cop doesn't feel threatened. He just can't. He doesn't think he can catch the guy, and he shoots him in the back. Is he immune from liability?
Senator, I'd like to engage on this hypothetical, but because it's a fact pattern that may come before me if I'm informed.
Come on, counselor. If I'm a cop and I'm talking to a suspect, and he turns and rabbits on me, and I say, I don't think I can catch this guy, but I know how to stop him, and I shoot him in the back. You telling me I'm immune as a cop from liability?
What I can tell you is the legal test, Senator, for qualified immunity, which is whether there was an objective basis.
Does it apply in a criminal case?
It's a
apply in a criminal case, does it?
No, Senator, these are typically in 1983 actions.
So I can't shoot him in the back, right?
Again, I don't want to comment on a specific fact pattern. I principally have practiced in civil law and haven't encountered that specific fact pattern, but I would look at the developed body of precedent on qualified immunity and ask the question that I understand the Supreme Court has settled about whether there is an objective basis for the officer's actions.
Yeah, okay. I get what. Look, you're smart. I've read your resume. I just caution y'all when you go back to your friends at the White House who got you ready for these hearings. Don't dodge the question. Just answer. Okay, if you don't know, just say I don't know. I just think you're very qualified, counselor, but I can't believe you dodge on the question. Can a cop shoot somebody in the back who's running away just because he doesn't think he can catch him on foot? But anyway, I'm over.
Then he also criticizes a federal judge for drafting a letter saying as a result of the protests going on in Colombia for a free Palestine, that this federal judge would never hire any Colombia law grad as a law clerk. And Senator Kennedy cross-examined him, like, why would you do that? Like, doesn't that make you seem like a political hack? Like, why would you say that? You're playing this quote.
Why did you? I heard your answer to Senator Gergen, but you were a sitting federal judge, and I know some other judges going, but you wrote a letter to Columbia saying, because of what I see happening in Colombia, I'll never hire one of you back. Why did you do that?
Senator, I was asked to sign the letter. It was indicated over a period of time. And the reason why, because it wasn't simply a student protest that was occurring. It was a protest that was resulting in violent conduct.
Well, I know what happened. I guess what I'm getting at is our federal judiciary has lost some of its legitimacy. I'm not blaming it here, but it has. And so many Americans now feel, because they're told, that judges are just politicians and robes. They're just mini legislatures. And that's not what our founders intended, and I don't think that's what they are. And so when a federal judge expresses a political opinion like you did, and your colleagues did, how does that help our effort to help the public understand that judges aren't politicians?
Senator, I've spoke a lot that federal judges have a lot of power, and you've said it, I think, in other
Yeah, they do.
But our power is limited. It's significantly limited to the case or controversy before it. We don't have the power of the executive. We don't even have the power to change laws like you do as a legislator.
I get that, Judge. And you're a judge. You can do what you want. I hope you won't do something like that again. I'm not saying you don't have the right, but when you adopt a political position, which I happen to believe in, frankly, to do that as a private lawyer is one thing. To do it as a sitting federal judge is quite enough. And I just don't think it's a good thing. It's my personal opinion. You know,